me today, Ben. We've been abandoned by the rest of the team on this Are You OK day. You okay, mate?
I'm good. And yourself? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
You're coping all right? You're coping okay with the homeschooling still? Hasn't got you down?
Not really. No, not really, but
not really coping.
I'm tolerating it. I think that's how I describe it. Now we're all good, and probably a good opportunity. This recording is a little bit of an update, a little broader update from us. Let's call it the Burke Britain podcast, and it'll follow on from some of the client updates that Amy's been providing. We thought we'd cover off on a few topics today. The first one, Ben, we had some exciting news in the business that we're expecting a new baby. Is that you?
Not me. It's certainly not me. Touch wood anyway. Nothing I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Tegan, obviously most of you guys will know Tegan in the business, and her partner Jake are expecting. I think it might be November, but don't quote me on that.
I think it might be December, Ben.
December.
December.
Come early. So that's exciting news. And obviously Tegan's been around I'm never good at guessing how long people have been around for, a bit like you, Jay, the last couple of years at least. So
I think at least 2 years.
At least 2 years.
It is a hole to fill, but Amy's been working feverishly behind the scenes to make sure we've got the admin support in place to cover Tegan while she's away. And so we're excited to actually introduce shortly. I won't steal Amy's thunder, but excited to introduce a couple of new team members in the very near future to help support us during Tegan's absence. So congratulations to Tegan. Next one. So in the client update, we talked a little bit about Delta's new role. Do you want to maybe touch on that, Ben? Because it sort of follows on from your role that you've had in supporting Peter the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure plenty of you guys have already met Delta over the 15, 16 years, and then in more recent times actually being in the meeting with Peter. So similar to myself over the last 4 or 5 years, helping PB just to manage his clients and make sure that he has some time to, do some things for himself outside of work, but also be there and keep seeing his clients, which is something that he really loves doing. And, our workload only ever gets bigger. So Delta being in there, being able to field some questions. If anyone has any questions, a bit like with the guys that I see, don't be afraid to fire it to us. You're going to see both myself and you'll see Delta and Peter all together whenever we have those meetings. So, Delta's been around for a long, long time. She knows a lot more about a lot of things in the business than I'll ever know. So make sure we're hitting her up with any questions, and you all get to know her a lot better, I'm sure, as you're seeing her every 6 or 12 months.
Yeah, and also to that point with Peter, he's been a very good example of being an early adopter to the likes of technology, and supporting Peter with the likes of Ben and Delta and technology has been really helpful to allow Peter to step away. You'd like to think that he's probably not doing much administration, but he still does. So our aim is really to have Peter spending much more time client-facing, mentoring planners, and in the advice space rather than doing any sort of administration. So as Ben said, hit Ben up, hit Delta up. If you've got any queries, they can be your first port of call as they help and support Peter.
He's certainly not going anywhere, is he?
No, I can't. Well, I can't get rid of him quick enough, but he won't. I don't think he'll go anywhere. I think technology might actually extend Peter's tenure in the business, which actually would be a particularly good thing. We can tap into him for a long, long time yet. One of the things that's been coming up a little bit, and Amy mentioned it in her email, was just around our relationship with Hamish and Sarto, and the differentiation between the advice that Hamish provides under his broking license and the advice that we provide. So maybe, Ben, can you just, without getting too deep into the technical side of stuff, just explain the difference between broking advice and the financial planning advice and the relationship with Hamish?
Certainly. So again, Hamish has been around for a long, long time in the business, and many of you guys would have crossed paths with him either virtually or in person at functions and things. Our role as your planner is the more holistic view of things, and making sure we've got funds in the right locations and allocations to assets correctly, making sure your cash flows and your debt management and things are working together. And then we use Hamish to really sort of bolt onto that and dig down into that portfolio management side of things when it comes to direct shares. So as I've said to many clients, it's a full-time gig just to be monitoring the market, looking at all those companies, sitting in on their, general meetings and reading the reports. So Hamish that's where we're outsourcing that section of the advice, I suppose, to him. But it's very integrated, as many of you would know. We have our fortnightly catch-up. He's across what we're trying to achieve with your different portfolios, and the sort of the philosophy we're taking is we're not trying to quadruple our money in a fortnight. We're not trying to run the gauntlet with that. We want consistent returns, and we're investing in companies that he and all of us planners are all comfortable with, I suppose. So it's a personalised approach to all the portfolios. They're all a little bit different depending on where you're at, but we definitely tap into Hamish's expertise in that area.
And maybe it's worth explaining. I know I've explained this to clients in the past, Ben, but we are in regular contact with Hamish on a fortnightly basis. We have a planner catch up where we getting feedback from him about exactly what our portfolio should be looking like, advice on what shares we should be selling, what we should be retaining. And I suppose the important thing to note here, and this in some way comes down to a compliance issue, is that you'll hear from the planners and even from the staff that the planners can't provide advice on direct shares. Now, that's not by way of us avoiding giving advice. The fact is that under our license, we're not licensed to provide direct equity advice, and that's exactly why we engage Hamish to provide that advice. So if it's coming from Hamish's mouth, we're okay with it, and we're happy to proceed. So did you want to expand on that at all, Ben?
Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing, and clients will often say, "Well, what do you think?" And it's more the other way around. It's often with any new share we're adding in. Hamish has probably spoken to us about it for 6 or 8 weeks in advance of him sort of letting us know that he's already tracking something. He can foresee something that he would like to look at. We talk about it. We get to understand it first of all, because there's been plenty of times where we've said, but we push back on him as well and ask those questions and make sure that we're really confident and comfortable with what he's doing. And it's not that we don't trust him, but like anything, you just like to ask those questions. And it's a collaborative approach that we take with him to make sure that you guys get the best possible outcomes. And it's not that we don't understand those direct shares, but to actually drill down and know them one by one, the ins and outs of each of them. Tapping into his expertise is crucial for that.
Can you maybe just touch on the share offer process, because that's likely to come up a little bit in the course of the next 6 or 12 months, because again, that's one of those instances where clients may expect that we will personally provide them advice on exactly what they should be doing in terms of taking up the offer, when in fact that advice will come in a different format. Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, definitely. So, and it's a bit of it's an ongoing, bugbear of us of trying to make sure we get this done in the best possible way. And every offer is a little bit different. There's a range of different entitlement offers and renounceable rights and all these different things that you would have come across. But essentially, the first thing I'd say is if you don't hear anything from us, it's generally that Hamish has filtered those out already. And when they start coming through, it's those ones that they're either he would like some input from you, or he's giving that general piece of advice about what his thoughts are. So, we've had a few in recent times. You'll get the email. He'll give his general overview of what it is. And you need to come back and either ask questions to him directly or just inform us on what you would like to do. Unfortunately, we're not able to say yay or nay on if you should do it because of that limitation under our license. But don't be afraid to ask questions. We can put back through to Hamish. Again, it's a work in progress, and it's something that we're hoping we can make even easier, a bit more streamlined and more easy to roll out on scale when we do need to.
That probably flows us into the next topic, which Amy covered off on the client update, which is just around portfolio construction. It's very topical given the volatility of the last 12 months. And I suppose it just reinforces for us and our clients the importance of portfolio construction. So it flows directly into the conversation we just had about the importance of Hamish and having someone close to the coalface with direct equities, but also on a broader level, on a more macro level for each of our clients. The way I probably like to look at it is to say that if we're making radical changes to people's investment circumstances because the market's gone up or down, we've probably misjudged the advice we probably should have given in the first place. And I think the fantastic thing looking back with the benefit of hindsight is that our portfolios have managed very well through this period of uncertainty. And I certainly, like everyone, has probably been a little bit anxious about that sort of February, March period. When you look back with the benefit of hindsight on that 12 months, you can see the benefit of actually being true to people's risk tolerance, their risk profile, and having that diversification, which is something that we're always aiming to do.
Yeah, and I think across the board, like everyone's portfolios are going to be different based on their own circumstances, but we're always building in provisions and safety measures. So, just give my blog a plug that's coming out soon, but talking about, all those layers of risk protection we've got built in for people. So making sure you've got, cash on hand, you've got, potential access to redraw facilities. Then inside the investments, there's liquid investments that aren't bound to that volatility of the market. So, we've got layers of protection built in that we don't get caught up in these massive market movements. We don't have to panic and buy or panic and sell. We've got provisions in place, and it's not that we ever want these things to happen, but history shows they will, and it will happen again. And it's been an interesting time because obviously this is probably the first one of these, significant events for me, being a planner. Jay's probably been through a couple. Peter's probably been through about 35 of them by now. But you really get to test the strategies, and it's the litmus test. I've said to a few clients, I said, look at that, look what you do if we just sort of, got to stick fat through these periods of time and not panic and do anything either way. We might have taken a few opportunities where possible, but if you ride these out, you've got the good foundations of the portfolio built at the start. We don't have to be stressed about it. We don't have to be worried about it. The market hasn't fully recovered yet, but many of the portfolios are exactly where they were 12 months ago already. So, it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but I think just sometimes we probably undersell how much work goes into those portfolios and those risk profiles. So it's something that is certainly not underthought in the building process.
Yeah, I think the more we verbalise it, again, something that we do every day, but letting people know that there's great importance in that construction, because it certainly helps us through these periods, which don't happen all the time. It's our first sort of significant bear market in sort of 12 years, but it's nice to see, with the benefit of hindsight, as I said, that they've held up really well. And probably one thing that was a little bit topical in the news a week or so ago was this
dirty word.
Your dirty word of recession, which I think I said at the time when we were talking about it, I'm not sure that people really care that much about it. And I think maybe I'm talking about our clients, because our clients probably have an understanding that of what recession actually means. But for those that don't know what recession means, I think it's worth just touching on. So a recession essentially is just looking back and seeing 2 quarters of negative growth in the economy. That's broadly it. So I think Hamish in one of our videos had mentioned that there is a distinct difference between the market, so the fluctuations of the market on a day-to-day basis, and the economy. And most of the things that we see in the economy have far and away been already factored into the market well and truly before we hear about it in the news. So the idea of a recession, or 2 quarters of negative growth in the Australian economy, is well and truly already factored into the markets and people's share price already.
Yeah, the media, your headlines, they love that stuff, those words, and I think we've said to many people, don't get too caught up in those buzzwords and things. They're very, it's easy to put panic through people, and many clients have said, well, what does that mean for us? Well, I liked Hamish's way he approached it to us, and we spoke about it. Was the recession talks about the overarching, and we just go down into by layer and look at each of those individual companies and go, well, what does that actually mean for them? Like each one in that portfolio, what does it actually mean for them? And for many, it means nothing at all. And that's sort of building it from the ground up. Is we're putting it in a mix of investments based on your needs, and then those investments are selected on their own analysis to make sure that they've got provisions in place, a bit like yourselves. We make sure there's always cash available for that, emergency moment. Most of the companies that we're investing in, they got low debt, they got good cash flows, they got plenty of provisions that if things go wrong for them, that they can survive and get through, and many of them thrive even. So there's a lot of layers that go into it. The overarching recession, scary word, but in reality, what does it mean for the actual individual? Generally not that much.
Yeah. We've got a couple of housekeeping things before we wrap up, Ben. Amy's just made a note here that the North or the My North statements, the tax statements, are due late September, early October. So that's generally for those people that have a My North or a North investment account, or for those people that are younger than 60 with a super pension that they're drawing income from. Those tax statements obviously then go to your accountant, but we'll let you know as soon as they're available. We do get questions about whether and when they'll be available.
Teresa's list is long and thorough. She's got them all noted down, ready to go. So they'll be as soon as they arrive, they'll be on.
Amy's also got a couple of notes here for me about social media, just to remind people that we, in this period of lockdown, we're certainly making much better use than we have in the past of our social media channels. So that's Instagram, that's Facebook, that's our private client group, just to try and disseminate information. So if you haven't already, jump on to Instagram, jump onto Facebook, and like us, subscribe to us, as my kids would say, like and subscribe.
Subscribe.
And we also talked about the Future Generation donations. So Future Generation, I think Amy's probably done a separate post for all of our existing clients. We've just released the donation schedule for this year from Future Generation Fund. And it's very exciting that we've been able to spread the love between a number of very worthy charitable organisations this year. So keep an eye out for that. I believe that next week we'll be running a bit of a profile on each of our charities. So that'd be something to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the input from the clients that promoted names and put some stuff forward. You'll see them coming through, hopefully, as some of those charities that we're able to support, which again, in the current climate, those charities value it more than ever. So it's good we're able to do that.
And I think the last one, Ben, was just the fact that we're all still working from home. The outlook for us in terms of continuing to work remotely is that we'll stay safe. We'll keep the staff safe. We'll keep the clients safe. And when we get the go ahead from the Victorian government about our ability to go back to work, we will do so. But in the interim, everyone's doing well, working from home. I actually was pleasantly surprised at just how well we've managed to operate with the dysfunction of COVID, but it's been a really good test for the business. And that said, I'm pretty keen to get back and meet some clients face to face rather than via phone and Zoom all the time.
Yeah, I think we're about to nearly raise the bat on 6 months. I think we might be 22nd, 24th, somewhere around there. So it's hard to believe that it's gone that quickly, but yeah, fingers crossed we can sit down and see some people in the flesh again pretty soon.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think again, it's a good, I think you use the litmus test analogy for us as a business to be able to come through a period like this with all of our team working remotely is a pretty good reflection of the business we have, and we're extremely thankful of the client support during this period of time as well, because it hasn't all been plain sailing. There's been some admin hurdles and technology hurdles to jump through, but we thank everyone for their patience, and thank the entire team for everything they've done during this period. So I think that's the end of my list, Ben. I don't know whether podcast number 1 will be better or worse than podcast number 2, but we'll see how we go next month.
We might roll some special guests through. Even we need to get someone. If they're sick of looking at our heads, we'll roll some of the staff through maybe. Yeah,
well, I'm getting pretty sick of looking at my own head on Zoom, so it would be nice to get some other heads on here as well. But anyway, thanks again, Ben. Thanks for the catch up, and look forward to doing it again in another month or so.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys.